Friends, good evening and welcome to another edition of Live at Night Soccer Talk. I'm Alex Parra. It's always great to have all of you following us, whether you do it live like we're doing now, or whether you're picking this up a little bit later, whether it's on YouTube, the Facebook, or the X. Do they still call it the Twitter at all? Do you remember the little bird? It seems like years ago that's the way this was. But however you're ingesting this program, taking it all in, we appreciate you being part of our little family here at Live at Night Soccer Talk. A lot to talk about. We've got the first quarterfinal match that took place today. Francia versus Marruecos. I like saying that word. That's one of my favorite Spanish language words. I'm sharing way too much today. I'll share my favorite Spanish word if you want it. I'll give that to you a little bit later. In honor... the laugh track, by the way, it's there, and you'll see who's laughing behind the scenes. This is the official match ball, by the way, one of our little friends of the '98 World Cup in honor of France. They, by the way, won that tournament. Brazil second, Croatia third, and Netherlands fourth. So we're getting closer, by the way, to those final four in this edition of the World Cup. A lot to talk about, a lot to look into, a lot of opinions. We have been on the air for a couple of days, and partly it's been because there was no match yesterday, but partly because these two gentlemen that I'm now putting on the screen have been hanging out and doing just way too much. We first have to celebrate the one and only Victor Araiza's current birthday, and before he gets to say anything, Enrique, let's guess how old he is. He looks what? Mid-50s?
He's weathered, right? Before the World Cup started, he was a young man.
He was. He was good-looking, smart, and now he's a shell of his former self. We started this 29 days ago, if you can believe it. Enrique, I'll get back to you in a moment, but how about we say hi and happy birthday to Victor Araiza. Victor, feliz cumpleaños. Happy birthday, sir. How are you?
Thank you. That was yesterday, but I'll take the, given that we weren't on the air, I'll take them now. I don't know how to do the
I don't even know my
thing.
children's birthday, so a day off is not bad for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't know how to do the balloon thing.
Yeah, I can clap or
where it
yeah.
You know, where sometimes it shows up. So I guess we'll figure that out as we go.
We just have to clap or do this or something happens.
Yeah, imagine the balloons.
I think we
up
do this. Do the thumbs up. No? All right. Somehow, when you need it, it doesn't work. How does it feel to be celebrating your birthday during the World Cup? Has it been almost secondary to you?
No, I mean, it usually happens. I mean, it's in the summer, so.
Well, I don't think it's changed unless you're like from Mexico and change your birthday. That's another story.
Yeah, I think I told you this. I was actually born on the day of the 1990 final.
Really?
So
1990.
Forever linked to that Germany-Argentina final.
I did not know that. 1990. Man, Enrique.
1990. I graduated high school in 1990, Victor.
90. Wow. I was in my third marriage. I had 6 kids by then already, gentlemen, in 1990. Victor, it's great to see you. Thank you for being with us. And yeah, we took a little rest yesterday because of Victor. He just didn't want to work on his birthday. I don't know what this is all about, but.
Well, and there was no games.
Well, well, we won't use that excuse, but yeah, we understand it. Now joining us in the center square, the one and only, he's already thinking of that other football, the American football, the Houston Texans, La Voz de los Texans, by the way. Do I have to read another script today, says the lawyer? Not today. We welcome in the one and only Enrique Vasquez. Evie, how are you?
Pretty good. And like Victor shared a post with us a couple of days ago, right after the day after the U.S. got beat. Right? It was a watch party in Philadelphia, and it was bone dry. Nobody was out there. Match going on. Was it Portugal? The Portugal match that was going on, and nobody was out there. Has the World Cup ended for the rest of the U.S.? I mean, I can imagine. People have to go back to work. I can imagine around the country, NFL-wise, playoff-wise, once your team gets eliminated, do you watch the rest of the playoffs? Do you tune into all of the Super Bowl? I don't know. That may be the case here. especially when there's maybe some soccer fatigue, having followed the tournament so much and being so involved like the country was. It's a shame, but it's the reality. Games middle of the day, I can see if the USA's still in it, Mexico's still in it, where people are just completely invested into the tournament. But now that both Mexico and the US have been eliminated, I could understand why maybe some people are like, okay, back to work, back to reality, back to the real world, and back to all the other things that garner our attention here in the U.S. sports-wise. I obviously right now the only thing playing professionally is Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Major League Baseball and women's basketball that's picked up some viewers. Some pro softball is going on, but for the most part, there's everybody goes back to their normal routine in the middle of the day. Some of us have to get back to work as well. So, but just the reality. It was certainly a big letdown having Mexico and the U.S. be eliminated back-to-back nights.
It was. And Enrique, we'll talk during this broadcast about the back to routine, back to normal, even for the sport. Houston Dynamo having matches here within days. We'll talk about those matches. The MLS going back to action literally within a week and a half. So this is coming, and it's going to be interesting to watch that transition to see whether or not the World Cup bump affects that industry, affects the youth side. I'll be monitoring that, of course, on the youth side. But we have not talked, gentlemen, since the loss of the United States. We haven't really offered. Enrique and I did a little bit, and I'll start with Victor first, the birthday boy by a day, just to be clear. But Victor, your thoughts on the United States? Was it a crash out? Was it a failure? Was this just where they overhyped? It's easy to criticize, I understand. I think with Mexico also, we wanted more, but we're also used to the disappointment if we follow the Mexican national team. With the United States, I felt they could have gone a little bit further, and I feel disappointed, I feel let down, and I still feel all of the issues surrounding the system, from the youth side to players playing in Europe, etc., that has not changed because of what was or was not accomplished in this World Cup. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, and it wasn't going to change. Like, I feel the same about both Mexico and the United States. I think it depends on what position you take. If you're just evaluating off the field, the excitement around both countries, the way people back the national teams. I'll even throw Canada in here, even though I think it's in a little bit lower level, just because I don't know if it was that big of an impact there. It was only between two cities. Maybe it was, and I haven't been able to grasp the impact. And they had a historic campaign, but I think certainly for Mexico and the U.S., which are the two leaders for many years in the CONCACAF region. You look up the off-the-field stuff, you're going to have a positive outlook. If you look on the field, you just focus on the competitive. I think it's a letdown for both. I think given that it was a home World Cup for both, and this was probably the best opportunity to get as far as both of these teams could in aspirations of winning a World Cup. Obviously, winning it was a long shot for both of these, but at least hopefully even getting to a semifinals or just even a quarterfinal would have been, I think, labeled a success. Getting ousted in the round of 16, and certainly in the way the U.S. did, but I'll throw Mexico in it as well, because I'm not, it's Azteca. It's whether it's England or not, I don't think that changes anything. I don't think it. Again, if you're looking at it competitively, we're not looking for moral victories. We're looking for quarterfinals or better, hopefully even semifinals. And if you got to the final, that would have just been, everybody would have been ecstatic. And again, it wasn't gonna change all the problems that we saw or all the concerns that we saw prior to the tournament. But man, was it? I guess depending on how you want to take it, maybe a harsh reality check. And again, maybe we don't deserve better, because I think all these things, all these concerns were there. They don't get addressed by either federation. Again, it only puts the spotlight back on every side of it. If you want to talk about the youth development, if you want to talk about the domestic leagues and where they're at. If you want to talk about how many players are playing in Europe, um, who the coach of the national team is, and did they get enough? I think you can go at every little area and you can find something. But ultimately, I think we had a golden opportunity here for both of these nations to, again, get as far as you could in the World Cup tournament, get as close as you can to winning it. Because you're in your host country, you're never going to have this. Not in the lifetime of these players. Of certainly in our lifetime, at least not for another. I don't know what's the next possible one, like 2038. And I mean, so that's so that's a good, wow. From now, who knows where the rest of the world's going to be there? I mean, this was it, and I think again, competitively, it just feels like it was a wasted opportunity. But if you focus, if you bring in the off the field stuff, obviously, and it was going to happen anyways, because I think it was going to captivate people being at home, getting to watch the games in our normal time zone. So it's just depending on what perspective you want to take.
Yeah, and certainly Mexico blowing that opportunity, like you mentioned, Victor. How many of the teams that advanced to the round of out of the round of six to the round of 16 would have dropped that game, playing at home, a man up, and then they couldn't have taken advantage of it. And then the U.S. With just bad performances, they just picked the worst game to have their worst game, and then also in the back line, it used to be that goalkeeping was probably where the U.S. was most solid for the last 20 years. And now since Brad Gusan left, I guess it's been sort of oh my God, you're just waiting for the disaster. The disastrous mistake in the back, and it certainly happened at a most an opportune moment after the U.S. had tied at 1-1. Then they give up that, just a terrible mistake in the back by the goalkeeper, Freeze, where he basically froze, and then they go on. Belgium goes on to take care of that game. But yeah, just two opportunities where, they got to the engineered quinto partido, the fifth game, but really there was nothing accomplished. They went out where they normally do, both U.S. and Mexico, and just no progress was made. So maybe you want to give them a participation trophy, a little plastic trophy, like I always tell my softball girls. Yeah, be proud of that, I guess. But in the end, you really didn't accomplish anything when you're talking about playing soccer with the big boys in the world, which is where you need to be. Mexico has two countries where they can generate income from. The U.S. has, the opportunity to make so much money.
They do generate that income, by the way.
And they do. And U.S. soccer gets a piece of it as well. So it's like, both of these national teams are taking advantage of some of probably the best economic situation possible, with Mexico and the U.S. being able to generate revenue and dollars into their coffers, and to basically be stuck in the same place for now 24 to 30 years. That's just where we are, and that's unacceptable.
Here's what I heard from Victor. You can take it different ways. I hear from Enrique, listen, the same thing. So was it an illusion? Was it, were we sold something that wasn't real? Guys, look what we're doing. Look how great this is. Look how amazing Pochettino's leadership is. Look at Pulisic, who, by the way, he had an awful match versus Belgium. Awful. In general, you could say he had an awful World Cup. Is it just, did we fall into the trap of really believing this? Don't stop believing. And then maybe that's, why not us? Was it just a marketing ploy?
Well,
do we need to be, we all need that happiness in our lives. Certainly I do. Have a bitter life. No, I don't. I'm just joking. But did we fall for the trap, Enrique, that, you know what, let the results speak for themselves? 4 years from now, are we going to say, look, let's wait till you get to the semifinal and then we'll get into it? People need this.
Yeah, they do. But I guess winning sort of covers up some of the bad issues that both teams had going up to the run to the round of 16. But the thing is that how they came away with some of the wins, and then the U.S. To me, the U.S. was almost more. I don't know. That's more of a flop. It was just bad mistakes at a bad time. Whereas Mexico was just like a collective opportunity that they blew as a team. Yeah. But just progress wasn't made. But I guess we sort of blinded ourselves to some of the issues that the teams had, because they did win some games. Mexico did not allow goals, but then how did they beat South Korea? By a mistake by South Korea. So I don't know. It's just disappointing. And the more the time goes by since both teams lost, I think the worse I feel about it. But in the end, I guess, the casual fan, maybe buys in a little bit more because of, they did offer us some glimpses of better play, especially the U.S. where as before in World Cups they went into games hoping that the other team made a mistake, and then maybe you take a chance or have a moment where you can get a goal. Now they showed us that they have opportunity to create offensive attacks, and not just hopeful wishing or hopeful thinking that you're going to be able to score in a World Cup game. Now they just, Christian Pulisic had just a bad moment to play a terrible game, terrible tournament, really.
Forgive me, Enrique. Victor, can we use the word fracaso, failure, for both of these teams? Or, hey, it's business as usual. This is where we are. It's okay. Let's be realistic. Well, exactly what Enrique said. Will Mexico have another opportunity to get to the round of 16? The quarterfinals. In Azteca against England? Probably never again in the history of Mexican soccer. Will the United States have these opportunities again at home? Probably never. Are we being too harsh in this analysis, Victor? Or do we need to be harsher because we need to demand and expect more?
The U.S. might, but just with not with this generation, which we thought is the golden generation. Who knows? Maybe we'll be proven wrong in a couple of years. We'll get an even better generation of players. Certainly for Mexico, I mean, you have to think that might have been the last World Cup game ever at the Estadio Azteca. I don't know if Mexico's going to get another chance to co-host, or certainly, the Azteca might need another remodeling, and how many of those can you continue to ask for, right, to be in optimal condition? So we'll see. So I think in that sense, it probably hurts Mexico a little more, where the U.S. can still, host in the future. But yeah, look, I would say business as usual. I think it's more of it's where you always end up, more or less, right? The U.S. I think, barring that one, the Russia World Cup where they didn't qualify, they usually get to the round of 16, and the only time that they've gotten to the quarterfinal, and in this modern era, obviously, I'm not counting the third place finish back in, what was it, like 1930.
Yeah.
But in this modern era, the only time they've gotten that as far as the quarterfinal was beating Mexico, which is a familiar foe. Otherwise, it's been the round of 16 and out, and that's before we had the round of 32. So it was one and done, right? Basically, how we call it in the NFL playoffs, it's one and done. And the same thing for Mexico, and it was always again, you didn't get to that fifth game because that fifth game used to be the quarterfinal, and it was always the frustration of going every 4 years, getting to the same place and never really making any progress. And then, years and years go by. So I would say it's kind of business as usual. And again, this was the one opportunity to have it be something else. I think we blinded ourselves, but in a way that we were hoping for the host being, the advantage, the home field advantage, to sort of give you a little boost and help you overcome some of the concerns we figured we had, right? But at the end, the chickens came home to roost for both of these nations. Mexico wasn't playing great in the group stage, but they got results and they were able to go through. And we talked about this, if they can continue to ascend and get better. But again, I think that's and again, everybody's gonna have their own perspective, but I think that's the reality check, that even with the way they fought back against England, they were still a man up. They had things kind of work in their favor, and they couldn't get it done. In the U.S., it was, they played attractive soccer at first, right? Until they met somebody that could push them back, and then they weren't used to it. They didn't know how to react. They were taken out of their element. And, again, this was all to be expected. And the concern here now is, how is this going to change moving forward?
Right.
Mexico's got a plan. Their plan was, it's Vasco's send-off, but Marquez is going to be his assistant, and he's going to take over after the World Cup is done. And again, we'll see if that even lasts the 4 years, because Mexico has a knack for cutting processes short if things, don't end up going the right way. And again, as Enrique said, they're making money. They're in the business of making money here first. So, there's a clash there with Rafa. you could see them parting ways. And then with the U.S., there's a debate now if it's sticking with Pochettino. If Pochettino even wants to stay, he says he's got to talk with the federation, see if they even want him back. And then if not, who's going to be the next guy going forward? Steve Cherundolo's already been named the U23 coach for the Olympics. So it might already, smell like he could be the potential next coach of the national team. The way we know some of these U.S. soccer guys get recycled, and we may have a caretaker here for the next 2 years.
Is this a time, Enrique, to hold accountable the federation? Is this a time again to reassess even players who may not have performed as they were expected to, or are we okay? The other way to look at this, as Victor mentioned, is what we're not gonna. What is the cliche? Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Yeah, this is where we are. Let's keep going. Another process, another 4 years, and let's keep it going. It's not awful.
Well,
is it?
Yeah, and the thing is, I mean, for the U.S. soccer, Victor, I don't know if you agree. I mean, they're even if you just maintain and don't change anything, you're going to have a steady stream of U.S. players that get developed and continue to get developed in Europe. I don't know that Mexico has that set up for them to develop players that way. Their focus almost seems to be we got to have more domestic forwards. We have to have more domestic Mexican players playing in Liga MX, playing in the midfield that develop that creative player in the middle, and it almost seems like they want to find a solution that way as opposed to the European solution. Neither one of them has worked. And the thing is, I mean, I saw a post today about how Germany, they decided to make a change in how they develop players. Well, Germany hasn't done anything in a while. Italy, they have relegation. So do most of the European big European nations, and they haven't gotten results. Jesus, Italy hasn't made it to the World Cup in a couple of cycles. Are they doing things completely wrong? They already have the system that the U.S. supposedly is going to needs to develop to find a solution. So then it really, I don't know that it's as easy as just saying, okay, the pay to play thing is just the all evil, and as soon as that gets scrapped or changed or whatever, that's going to give us a solution to be competitive at the World Cup, at the premier World Cup level. So again, going back to my first initial question, if you don't change anything, and more likely things aren't going to change, the U.S. is going to have players coming out of Europe. Mexico is not. Can they find talent at home? Obviously, the roots are there in Mexico, maybe not so much here in the U.S., but the players are still getting developed in Europe for the U.S. So who has the better shot in 4 years to maybe take that next step and win a quarterfinal type of match?
Yeah, I would say they probably have the same, just because it's almost kind of luck of the draw once you get there and who you face. Because again, that was the other part of this. Because they were the host, they got put in pot A. Fine, if we can't call it an easy group, they got as favorable as a draw, right? They weren't in a group of death. They weren't paired up with some of these European nations that would cause them more problems. So now, when you go into the next World Cup, they're going to have, you would think, a more difficult trajectory to get to the round of 32, and then they might not get as much of a. I mean, they may get immediately a tough opponent and be out, and then now we're talking about we can't even get to the round of 16.
Yeah.
So all this stuff is to be seen, and again, I don't want to look too far ahead, but.
Do you think it would help, Victor, that the U.S. team next time around, Mexico as well, will have qualification phase to go through to toughen up to where the first time you don't face adversity is in this situation and around, where you face Belgium. The first team that really had a legit chance to beat them. Not only beat them, destroyed them. But this team hadn't been tested under Pochettino because they just had to, they were given the ticket into the World Cup.
Yeah, I think that certainly would help them out, because you go now to some of these environments, you find out what some of these players are made of. And, I think also, what that relationship is with the coach. All this stuff plays a factor, and it's to be seen. But going back a little bit to your question about the players, I think they both have equally a chance. I mean, the only advantage the U.S. has had to send players to Europe, I mean, sooner is either if they have a dual nationality, right, or a European passport, whether they were born there, parents, or what have you. Mexico could get there the same way, but you also have to have players that want to go to Europe, and I think you see it from the U.S. player a little bit more accepting in as far as that challenge. Where in Mexico, again, do players want to go to Europe, or are they looking to take on that challenge? Will they opt instead for a comfortable stay in Liga MX that can provide them financial security? I mean, these some of these guys are, they have kids in their early 20s, so family, that kind of stuff plays a factor. Um, we'll see. But then here's the other thing for Mexico. Some of these MLS guys that are getting developed, like Ovid Vargas, Brian Gutierrez, they're part of the national team now. So MLS is inadvertently making players from Mexico also, that Mexico can just kind of poach now. And I mean, Vargas is over at Atletico de Madrid. Some of these other guys will get opportunities just like the U.S. players. But then you have a case like, and I don't know if it's been talked about enough. Mexico took Gilberto Mora to the World Cup, and the U.S. has a young player in Kevin Sullivan out of the Philadelphia Union. I believe he's up to 16, 17. Yeah. He's already got a contract with Manchester City when he turns 18 because he can't go sooner. What's that even going to mean? Is he going to be one of these loanees that never sees the field in Manchester City? There's a lot of that stuff, but I don't know what. That's what these federations have to answer. I don't know what the plan is for the national team. Mexico, we know it a little bit more because Rafa's the coach. But again, are some of these players going to go over to Europe? Is Rafa going to be the type of coach that goes against the federation in some of these and says, I want my players in Europe over Liga MX? Is it going to give the younger Liga MX player an opportunity as well? Will those players even exist with the way Liga MX, they have a rule now back, right, where young players have to get, make up 1,000 minutes each season with a Mexican team. But we'll see how many of these players come through some of these teams. And MLS again is a young player getting as much opportunity. The play-to-play stuff's always going to be there, but I mean, our club's going to stop making money. Is the U.S. going to have to subsidize some of these players? And here's the other one. It's my understanding that the MLS academies don't charge for their players, right? So wouldn't that be the pathway? I mean, wouldn't the pay-to-play argument kind of go out the window there, or am I?
Well, look, it's a really good point. What you're saying is that players that have been selected for the real MLS team academies don't pay. The answer is that's correct. They're scholarshiped in. The expenses are picked up by the clubs. Yes.
Because then my argument here would be, you can have pay to play, but if the MLS teams wouldn't drop the ball at certain markets, you'd have more players that would be there up for selection in a country where you got 30 MLS teams. Again, we can go through some of this roster at some point, but we'll see if some of these academies start developing more players and have more options to select from, or if we're just gonna. Or if this is as good of a generation as we're going to have.
The time is now, and I think in the next couple of weeks and months and even years, to do the postmortem for both Mexico and for the United States. And I think as we all get a little more clarity on it, maybe we were too close to it, and I think a little bit of time helps everyone make better decisions. But the last point here, Victor and Enrique, before we talk about France and Morocco today, does this kill the business? And again, we can talk about development. We can talk about all kinds of things. The business is still what drives all of this. Are we still going to be showing up to watch the Mexican national team in a friendly at SoFi and sell it out? Is the U.S. men's national team still going to sell their Nike jersey the next time it comes, the next edition of that jersey? That's what keeps all of this going. Enrique, I don't think this kills the golden goose, right? I think it keeps it going. I don't know if there's a bump. That's where I'm going with it. Is there an economic bump? Is there casual fan bump? Is there a mainstream media coverage bump? I think we were on the threshold of that, but I don't quite think we get there.
Yes, as a casual media for sure, casual fan for sure gets a little bump, and and a patriotic view as well. It just so happened to be a 4th of July weekend. There was such a buildup to this game, and then obviously a big letdown against Belgium. But the thing is, going in, I think around the country, and I was watching one of the podcasts. Uh-oh. Did I freeze? Am I back?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You were talking about other podcasts, like the good ones, not this one.
Yeah, another podcast from a friend of mine. The guys that cover Oklahoma Center football, they were actually going to talk about. I started to listen to it, but they were going to talk football guys talking soccer, talking World Cup,
Wow.
And they were bummed out about the U.S. Losing to Belgium. So if you get to that level of the casual fans, the fans that never really paid attention to soccer, and all of a sudden they're all in, I think that was the case around the country. So in that regards, there's going to be a bump, just like there is, obviously when the Olympics come around and nobody watches gymnastics until then, every 4 years. But yeah, that's going to get a bump.
Did Enrique, I have to ask you, because you and I are friends. Did Trump screw this up, or did he help it? Meaning, we can call it his interest in the matter of the red card, his intervention, his communication. We can talk about the semantics of it. He was involved in one way. Does that sour the U.S. men's national team soccer to anti-Trump people who will find a way? I mean, we can criticize anything, even your Emmy. It's not positioned the right way today, by the way. It's not glistening. But did Trump give it more? Did Trump help or hurt the cause of soccer? I remember the day it was on every news channel, Enrique. That meaning they were talking soccer. What is it? Any news is good news. At least they're talking about us.
Yeah, and I got an email from somebody said that they wanted to report on the new scandal that broke out for the World Cup. It was like, I mean, I guess either way, however you look at it, either he's a useless person that doesn't get anything done, or all of a sudden he was able to reach out to one of the most corrupt organizations in the world and got them to do something. Which one is it? I mean, really, he had that much power? Ultimately, I don't know that he did anything. He drew attention to it. He's really good at that. No matter what he does, good or bad, he made it. Posted something on his X account or an X account that's obviously linked to him, and I don't know how much influence that had. I think in the end, the right decision was reached on something that was unfair. The red card, maybe.
Yeah.
But I don't know. In the end, I don't know that he did much. He drew attention to it, but I don't know that he changed the minds of whoever the committee was to get Balogun to play.
I agree with that. I don't think he was in the mechanics of, hey, let's make this decision. Let's take a vote. He did say he was good at this stuff, but he's not. He didn't get in the back room and make the decision. He brought attention to it. But I guess, Victor, I'll turn to you. Is that attention good attention for the sport or bad attention for the sport? Whether we like it or not, this will be a storyline now, probably for years to come. Remember when Trump intervened in that red card for the U.S.? And someone can take that and run with it any way they want, as you said, depending on your point of view.
Well, it was a distraction for sure. But this is world soccer. Politics, everything seeps over. And I was actually surprised there wasn't more during the group stage. I was kind of expecting, I think we talked about this in the run-up to the tournament, the U.S. players to, fairly or not, get questions about, what the U.S. is doing in Iran or wherever. Because I think sometimes you get these media outlets that, bring over what's going on in the world. It's not always sports media. Sometimes you'll just get general news channels that come to the World Cup, and it happens at every World Cup. So at some point, I think, especially if the U.S. went further, I think some of that stuff was gonna inadvertently be there. But the thing is, here again, it's one of these chickens that came home to roost. These players have never dealt with this stuff before. Now, some of these players are in Europe and some of the top leagues, and they get criticism. I don't know how it affects them. I don't know if they understand it because some of it's in a different language. But again, this is the pressure that comes with playing a World Cup. Every nation has it in some form or another. We talked about this. There's heads of states that come to some of these games. It's not just the celebrities they show on TV. And you have entire countries glued to the TV, following this, minute by minute. Um, and at some point, they were going to have to deal with that. That's part of the pressure of playing there. And I don't know if these players didn't necessarily live up to it. They didn't play very well against Belgium, um, but it's one of these things that it's always it's one of the pressures of playing in a World Cup, and they
And the
got a
thing is
taste of
this,
it here against Belgium.
and if that screwed them up, then that's pretty weak on the players' part. And I don't think that was the case. I think they was just outmatched, and Belgium just put them to bed, and the terrible mistakes. It was just noise around this match that had
Yeah,
ultimately really
but
had
you know
no
what it
effect
did
on
do?
the field.
It did motivate Belgium big time.
Yeah,
And this
yeah,
was a Belgium team that was down in the dumps until they had that, they woke up and had that miraculous comeback against Senegal. And then who knows? We were talking about, we don't know what Belgium was going to show up, but
Yeah.
if we get the US that we've been seeing and the Belgium that's kind of been uh a little loose, right? The US would have probably won, but I think Belgium, they were on their A game. You saw it
yeah.
motivated them. You saw it in the celebrations. And again, these are the things that I would have expected in the World Cup. Where maybe the U.S. isn't seen as favorably around the world, and some of these countries would use it as motivation. I was honestly, again, I expected it more from maybe a nation like Paraguay, or even the game against Bosnia and Herzegovina. I know some of it came about with that reporter that went viral, right? Um, but again, this is what I would expect at a World Cup. These nations, these fans to sort of rally, because again, they're rooting for their nation to win, and these players, I mean, every little thing counts for motivation. Um, and again, if this U.S. team wasn't ready for it, they got a taste of it now, and I mean, I wouldn't expect any less 4 years from now when they go into next World Cup, if they do qualify, because
Yeah,
now
yeah,
obviously that's been an issue.
yeah. The what ifs are fun to look at now, and then what if freeze doesn't freeze in that situation? It's a 1-1 game, and how does it finish out? Pulisic doesn't eventually. I guess it turns out he broke his foot, right,
Yeah.
kicking the heel of the defender. So if he doesn't get injured, adds that injury to whatever was giving him trouble here the rest of the World Cup after that Paraguay first half. Who knows what happens if he comes off the field and then somebody else brings the game home. Who knows? But for the little bit they gave us hope. They were entertaining, but ultimately, it comes back to the same thing, right? The U.S. is just short. They're just talent-wise, mentality-wise, whether it's the coaching or just the players. Mexico, same thing. They blew an opportunity that was golden, that was teed up for them, and now we're sitting at home, Mexicans and U.S. backers, the rest of the World Cup, watching, and hoping for a good tournament the rest of the way.
And the tournament continues. Today's match, Enrique, thank you for the segue. France, Morocco in the first quarterfinal. Victor, I'll turn to you on this match. 0-0 at halftime. Morocco with the dream also, but the French team, midfield, Mbappe, so many things to talk about here, but they continue to roll consistently, finding a way. At times, I see them even getting better and gaining even more confidence, which can be dangerous now the rest of the way. But this was our first quarterfinal match. Your thoughts on what happened in Boston today?
Yeah, I think we were all curious to see if Morocco could do what they did last World Cup and kind of make a surprise run into the semifinal. But this French team is just too good, and I think they showed it today, and that's why they're probably the odds-on favorite to win the whole thing. They have to be. Mbappe continues to score. Obviously, it makes it interesting that him and Messi are sort of neck and neck for the Golden Boot. Obviously, there's the all-time World Cup scoring record between those two. Holland's right there too, not far off, and Harry Kane. But again, and you see Dembele there, who maybe is a little more quiet down the list. But between those two players and everybody else that France has, I mean, they're just a complete team. You almost feel like it's got to be France or bust at this point. They're just too complete. They have too many stars. It's too good of a team to not win it all. And if they don't, it'll kind of be an upset. I know you still got to play the games on the field, but again, this is looking like a pretty good France, and they don't seem to be showing any signs of slowing down.
Enrique, it's hard to bet against them as you see the bracket, and really, I mean, they're nearly there with some three other tough matches coming here in the next 2 days.
Yeah, of course. And go back to the first goal France scored today. I think Morocco was looking for a handball call or something. It was about 2 or 3 touches before the goal was scored in the 60th minute. And amazingly, there was no replay of the situation by VAR or the broadcast. To look at, as soon as it happened, 3 or 4 of the Moroccan players lifted their hands, calling for a handball. There was something there, but we never saw a replay of it. And it's funny that we don't see it coming off of what happened in the Argentina-Egypt game, right, where the replay goes back to 80 yards down the field, 90 yards down the field.
Is this a conspiracy theory you're trying to set up, Enrique Vasquez?
I don't know. I mean, the thing is that the crowd has done their part, the stadiums have done their part, U.S. and Mexico, when the fans, whatever. The only I don't know what you want to call it, La Mancha, the only bad stain on so far has been the use of VAR in some decisions made by the referees in this tournament so far. And that's unfortunate because there's been some awesome games. But now, really, some of the marginal soccer fans go back to the same thing. Is FIFA helping certain teams? Are certain teams not getting the calls?
So is that where, I mean, is we know historically that behind the scenes there have been pushes to have certain countries move forward. Enrique, I don't know if in this day and age, with all of the scrutiny, it can be that blatant.
I mean, there's been no consistency, Alex. There's been no consistency on what gets called. Now that we have VAR, Salah was tripped on one play that Argentina goes back to score a goal on. And that was earlier in the same match. Yeah. And VAR didn't intervene to go back and say, no, there was a foul. We missed it originally. That goal can't count. So
I guess the tiebreak goes to Victor. Victor, I don't think we're there. Enrique's been reading too many novels on soccer history, maybe. What are your thoughts? Is there manipulation going on here? Is this serving another master, another purpose? And I'll go one further, Victor and Enrique. There's a lot of betting going on in these matches. People are making or losing a lot of money. That, to me, can taint, that's the word, put a stain on all of this. But I don't have any specific or credible accusations here, Victor. Your thoughts?
Well, and unlike the last World Cup, betting's legal in the U.S. in almost everywhere. Most states, or a lot of states, certainly. It's not one of these things where you just got to be in Vegas. You can do it online.
Yeah.
There's a trading thing now with what is it called? The predictions market,
which is betting,
that's available. Right? And there's been discussion about if it is or not, but it seems to be, and I think that's legal everywhere. So there is some of that, but I mean, look, if they were fixing it, they could have at least given us Cristiano and Messi in the final then. So we could at least.
No, they could have given us Mexico USA in the final. That would have been.
Well, that would have been too evident.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying that somebody send an email, say make sure they win, but just at least be consistent. And there's just hasn't been consistency on what is called and called back on some of these matches. I mean, and that's been pretty evident. I mean, Messi started out the tournament. He should have been red carded.
Should have been out. Yeah.
And he wasn't. Yeah. And we have VAR, and nobody stopped to go back and say, hey, let's even look at it. They didn't even look at it. How do you not look at that play? That's how it started. And now look how he advanced, or Argentina advances out of this last match.
And I do think there's that, and we could even point to, I might even say, I mean, it's like in the NFL. I mean, there are, I think, some mandates to, whether said or unsaid, to protect your star players, because at the end of the day, that's those are the guys who bring in the money, who bring in the ratings. So yeah, maybe a guy like Messi's not going to get all the calls, right? But as far as
You know,
and I think there's always going to be, you know, issues with refereeing because it is a tough job, and again, we've talked about this. I think there's too many cooks in the kitchen with this VAR stuff, where again, give the power, and it should be, it really is, but I wish it wasn't so much of a uh, collaborative thing. I wish the center referee would have the full most authority and make the decisions and kind of own them. Um, but there is worldwide scrutiny around these calls as well. So
as there should be. Now we're
it's hard.
biased. We're biased. We're emotional, Victor. But I will ask you this: you mentioned Messi. I sense that in MLS soccer, there is a protection of him, and everyone is kind of a non-spoken look. You don't do certain things around him.
Well, we
And
could say the World Cup too. I mean, we talked about that
yeah.
first game that would have been a red card, or people, it should have been a red card, and he didn't get it.
So what's the difference, I guess, Victor, and we'll get back to Don Enrique Vasquez. What's the difference between a protection for the business and outright manipulation? There is a difference. I think we all understand, we don't want to kill the golden goose or the goose that lays the golden eggs, which in MLS is Messi, but it doesn't mean that we're manipulating every game so that he wins. Or do they go hand in hand? Victor, I'll start with you on that one.
Well, yeah, that's a thin line to walk on, right? And I think, we'd all like to think there's a, you wish that, for the purity of the game, that things would just get called fairly.
Sure.
And again, maybe it's just an unspoken thing. Maybe there's not an official, on paper written directive for referees to not not red card Messi, not eject him. But again, there is the pressure, right? I mean, even just a worldwide scrutiny. Do you want to be the referee that red cards Messi and gets social media threats and all this attention, or do you, try to handle it a different way? So, I think again, and who does that fall in? Should FIFA back the referees and say, hey, listen, do what you need to do and we'll support you the same way in MLS?
Well,
I mean,
Victor, I'm going to interrupt you. The red card being rescinded against the USA by FIFA shows me they're not backing the refs. I mean, that's a specific example.
No, and you
a decision was made.
referees.
A decision was made by the referees, and FIFA said, nah, we're changing it. Never mind.
But then you get the other extreme, and that's where I go back to the consistency. Jarrell Kwanzaa, who was the one that for England slid over the ball, his foot remained up high because it was over the ball. He nails the Mexican player near him. Not only did he get red carded, but now that red card got added, modified to two matches. Mm-hmm. So to me, there was even no intent in that initial contact, but he got suspended now for 2 matches, where Messi got away completely free. And then the Balogun thing, who shouldn't have maybe been a red card, he got
Great example.
lifted. But now if he screws up again, but accidentally gets another red card, what's that going to happen now? Is that going to be upgraded to three games or something? Again, to me, it's just no consistency.
Yeah, I think those examples we just mentioned make that very, very, very point. Quickly, gentlemen, let's talk about France as they continue in the tournament. Victor, I'll go with you. They seem to be on a roll and gaining energy, gaining speed. It's going to be hard to stop them as we get ready to talk about the upcoming match tomorrow and then 2 on Saturday. Victor, the pathway is there for France. I don't see at this point who would deviate from continuing to call them the favorites.
Well, we still have to see what Spain and Belgium do, and Spain hasn't necessarily, well, neither has Belgium, knocked it out of the park in terms of how they've started the tournament. But both of these teams have players that could compete with France, so we'll give them that. They could start to grow here. Certainly, this victory, whoever takes it, you would think is going to be a confidence booster. And ultimately, you just got to be better than France in 90 minutes, maybe 120. But there's still teams out there that can beat France, obviously. I just think they look to complete a team. They face different challenges, right? The Paraguay game was a different challenge and certainly than this Morocco game was. But they've seemed to, sort of ace those tests. But we'll see here if Spain can start or Belgium can start to catch uh, some fire at the right time and get hot. If England now with that win at Azteca garnered even more confidence, and we'll see what they do. If Holland and Norway, if Norway can even as a collective get behind Holland, and could that be a team that you know is
Yeah.
the surprise of the tournament? I know for some probably already is, but I'm talking about in these latter stages. And obviously, no disrespect to Switzerland, but you got to be thinking Argentina. As long as they got Messi on the field, that's the team that's going to be looked at. They've already gotten over France in the last World Cup in the final. Granted, they went to penalties, but that would probably be the other team you're looking at, and they're on that other side of the bracket. So, still an interesting final to this World Cup, and still plenty of story to be written.
Don Enrique Vasquez, as you look at the bracket, let's start with tomorrow's match. We'll do our predictions here. I don't want to check the data on how good or bad we've been up to this point, but how do you see tomorrow's match? Belgium, Spain at well, I still call it SoFi in Inglewood, California.
Well, you would imagine the Belgium is going to bring De Bruyne back off the bench, right? He had the day off against Mexico, against the U.S. for whatever reason. Obviously, maybe it was the right decision. They go on and take care of the U.S. So with the rest of De Bruyne, you would think he makes a bigger, gives him a little boost. And then coming off that 4-1 win. Now, they were down. It was a 1-1 game off a somewhat lucky bounce deflection, right, on the free kick by the U.S. to tie that game. And then they just ran away and pounced on the mistakes that the U.S. had. So I'm going to go with Belgium on that one. I can see them, pushing Spain to the end and finding a way to win. Now on the other side, has Argentina just been playing with too much fire? They're going to eventually face teams that are not going to let them off the hook like Egypt did, right? Is that going to be the case for Argentina, or are they just not defending with all 10 players on the field, being that Messi just doesn't work on the defensive side? Is that going to cost them in the end when you face teams that aren't going to let them off the hook and have them down early? Argentina should. Against anybody else in this round, well, maybe not Switzerland. Once they get past this, if they do.
Exactly.
If they do get past this, are they going to be able to just be so fortunate?
Yeah. Well,
and get the calls.
Enrique, that's part of this tournament. You know that it's a little bit of luck here. It's a little bit of an injury for another team. It's a little bit of all those things.
But they've had one just about every match.
They have, but they've also had the magic to come back and make it happen. I can't take that away from them. Your last pick, how do you see Norway and England? Because that could be the team that could deny them getting to that final.
I mean, I think it's a huge confidence builder what they were able to do at Azteca. Close that game out down a man. I think confidence in the group and the work rate that they put in. 110 minutes of just intense soccer that they battled with Mexico. Maybe that's enough to push them through. But then you have Holland over there. There's just a monster. He could not do anything, and all of a sudden he turns it on. He flips the switch and he puts down 2 in the back of the net like that, and there's ball game. So. That's the crazy thing that we've always talked about.
They're
all these teams that are still
right
in
direction.
They're running in the right direction, but they have somebody that can have a moment at any moment and multiple moments in any match, and that certainly gives you a chance to pull out a win. So, I mean that's going to be a heck of a game with a young man in Holland that's just can turn a game over at any moment.
At any moment, Victor, take us through the 3 other matches and your predictions and or your overview of what we should be looking forward to.
Yeah, well, certainly I think, Argentina's probably got to get it together now for 3 games if they want to, do the back-to-back, because now they're not going to have it as easy as opponents to let them off the hook. But yeah, look, I think, I'm looking at all these teams, and as good as Mbappe is, as good as Messi is, Yamal, we still got to see more from him. But yeah, I think the best player of this tournament has been Holland, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
gives Norway something different. And we'll see if it takes them all the way. And I mean, he just looks unbeatable. And this is a player that probably doesn't get as much credit as he deserves because he's on Manchester City, and they just kind of see him like a guy that just puts in the goals and is surrounded by a talented team. But I think with this Norway side, you see a belief in that team. You see a team that works for him. They got some other talented players there. Obviously, not not to the
The level. Yeah.
notoriety of an Erling Holland, but they got some guys that can make plays here, and we'll see again. Um, is England tired from that Mexico game? I mean, are they? Did Mexico let them off the hook, and are they not as good as advertised? So we'll see. I'm curious again um, until these games are played. But I was impressed at how Norway obviously did away with Brazil. If they can get past England, and obviously I expect Argentina to get through the other one. That is going to be a real, uh, you know, could be a passing of the torch, if you will, if it hasn't happened already. Um, so I'm more curious, kind of here to see where Norway gets as far as the next coming rounds. And again, if Spain or Belgium can turn into something that could knock out France, different teams 2 years ago in the Euro, but Spain did beat France on their way to winning the Euro. And obviously, that was a Spain England final, which we could very well see here as well. But again, maybe it's Belgium's time. Maybe they finally figured something out here. Uh, we'll see. We'll see. But
I
yeah, I'll go quickly. Spain, Norway, and Argentina are my other picks.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you for once, even if I tried Victor on that one because it makes total sense.
Yeah.
Friends, your picks, talk to us, send them to us as we get closer. Tomorrow, of course, it's that Belgium Spain match. Yes, Enrique Vasquez.
Yeah, one more point. I came across a video of Erling Haaland. I think it was a Man City. He on a video of him sprinting on a breakaway on a counter from box to box. They clocked him at 21, a little over 21 miles an hour. Last year, the fastest sprint time for an NFL player was 23 miles an hour. Jonathan Taylor, who was a running back in the NFL. So you have an idea of the type of athlete this guy is at 6'5", and then the class he has in the box to finish. So I mean, if obviously people watching this know who he is and know what he's capable of. But if you're not too familiar with him, just get an idea of the type of athlete this guy is and how special. Like Victor said, maybe the best player of the tournament so far.
It's incredible to watch him, and I am looking forward to not getting ahead of myself, but an Argentina Norway semifinal would be very, very, very. Let me add another very. Very attractive there. Gentlemen, let's move a little bit here, if we can, to localize. We've talked about Houston's success in hosting 7 games at what is now Reliant Stadium. I think they're working on the official signage change, where Enrique, you and that other team, right, will play games.
Yeah, they're getting Enrique's office set up first, and then they'll move on to the signage.
The NFL. We'll talk about that. What is it called? Training camp? Is that what it's called? Whatever they do.
Training camp coming up into the month. I mean, we're a couple weeks away.
Here's the plug. Go ahead, do it right. The Emmy, the Cascos. we got it all set for Enrique Vasquez. That said, though, Houston still has to host a couple of events, a couple of watch parties at the Fan Fest. And then, Victor, this weekend, this Saturday in particular, Houston Dynamo are back at it. They're back in training. And also, they've already had one friendly match against Querétaro. We're watching a little bit of that closed-door session, but the MLS season's right around the corner, and after Querétaro, there's 2 friendlies coming, and then right after that, Houston back against DC United in Austin, if I'm not mistaken, to close out the month. How are we going to handle this transition? And I don't mean we that work on broadcast, but we as soccer fans. Is this going to get us closer to this team, closer to HH, closer to the Dynamo?
Well, I think that's where, and look, it's not just the Dynamo. I think MLS has gotten some criticism for not maybe building or attaching themselves as much to this World Cup as far as TV advertising during the games and that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
they got some social media stuff out now where we're back, and Darren Garber says we'll take it from here. But were they out of sight, out of mind, right? I talked about should they have done some of these trainings, at some of these Mexico watch parties? Should they have, even again, just thinking about not having just your global brand, right? You had so many Brazilian, media companies in town, and why not expose or have them, try to do some interviews with your players, right? Now that you have a bunch of Brazilians, I mean, all these things just to, extend brand awareness, we'll call it that. But, and obviously, one of the bigger attention grabbers of this MLS, we'll call it restart, Antoine Griezmann has already played with Orlando City in a friendly for them. He's going to start coming into the league, and we'll get to see Lewandowski also with the Chicago Fire. The Galaxy have sold Gabriel Peck, and who are they going to get in return? There's been links to a few players, right? Mo Salah, maybe a Kevin De Bruyne or somebody like that. So, maybe that the signings are going to be more of what bring people in to sort of link that back to the World Cup. But yeah, I think it's up to the teams to kind of try to grab some of those fans. That I probably should have mentioned this earlier. I think that for me is the thing about this World Cup is the way that they grab the attention of a nation. Here in the U.S., the U.S. team, and in Mexico. And how do you build on that? I think naturally we'll give you a little bit of a bump, but how do you retain, viewers, fans, make new fans? The other part of that is it's not just the patriotism. I think it's sort of rekindled the love with both national teams. I'll include Canada as well. If we want to talk about the three hosts. But again, it's how do you build on that? Naturally, with Mexico, I think, now there's a renewed love, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be there for these games in the U.S. We'll see how long that honeymoon period lasts, right? How long we go back to, people booing the team, that kind of stuff. With U.S. soccer, we've talked about the national team games. Are tickets too expensive? How do we get more better attendances? And then I think it kind of goes down to the MLS team as well. How do we make it more accessible, get people in through the door, and keep them around for the next 4 years, which that's the real challenge here.
Yes, sir. Forgive me for interrupting you, Victor. Enrique, you mentioned this to the casual fan, and you had a great example. It's the gymnastics that we don't worry about for 4 years, and then after the gymnasts get their medals, they go on tour for the next year throughout the country and visit arenas in Iowa where there are 3,000 people, and they identify with those Olympians they saw on the television. The U.S. men's national team has few players in MLS to trot out there. One of them is Matt Freese, but in Houston it would have helped to have Jack, for instance, be part of the team and then build on that. What do you do if you don't have an Olympian? What do you do if you don't have a World Cup player on your team? How do you work that magic to identify now? Well, yeah, I saw Mbappe, but Mbappe doesn't play for Houston. I saw Holland, but Holland doesn't play for Seattle. Does that make sense? The casual fan needs to connect in some way. That's one of the challenges.
Well, you have to connect with the league, though. And like Victor said, out of sight, out of mind. Watching the World Cup, you would have never thought there's even an MLS, there's such thing as an MLS. Obviously, Telemundo is not a broadcast partner of MLS. Fox is, but on any of the broadcasts with Fox, you never saw MLS come join us. Look at the excitement that we generated some of our matches. There was no kind of promo or anything, no kind of campaign that reminded you, hey, when this is over, come see us, come follow us, be part of us. And they, again, another opportunity I think that the league missed. And knowing that there's no national team player, that plays in MLS, then when you have to sell the package, the experience, not necessarily the individual player or the city. So just, again, it's easy, I guess it's easier maybe to be a marketing person working for the NFL. That sells itself. Now you really have to put your heads together and come up with campaigns to push the league. And then again, in front of the soccer audience that was there for the national team here, for this World Cup, or for the marginal soccer fan that was just coming in to enjoy games for the first time, maybe. Again, I don't know that they would be even aware that there's such thing as an MLS. They talked about it during the studio segments, but there was no necessarily campaign that was put forth as an effort to reach out to go get those fans. They just missed it.
And I agree with everything you said, Enrique Vasquez. Victor, as Houston hosts the Dynamo, Sede Olimpia, this Saturday, they sandwiched the game in between the two Saturday World Cup matches, if I'm not mistaken. Someone will have to help me on the exact timing.
I'll look at it I don't know if that works out. I mean, I don't know if they have watch the game pregame and stick around for the Argentina match. I haven't heard that that's part of the plan. That might be, so does this kind of do away now with the watch parties that they were having? I know most of the success was with Mexico. And it is a tricky one here because Honduras didn't make the World Cup, right? So now you're bringing in a fan base, or that had watched the World Cup, but maybe wasn't as emotionally invested as some of these other countries. And so maybe that presents a little bit of a different challenge. But again, a nationality historically that loves soccer. We've had some important Honduran players throughout the history of Dynamo, and obviously the big common link, Boniek Garcia. And actually, Boniek Garcia was the first active Dynamo to play in a World Cup.
World Cup, yeah.
About being part of the team. So for me, there's your link. Especially with this type of opponent, I would do something to honor Boniek Garcia at this match. Announce it. Anything you can do to, again, it's the names right there. Soccer celebration. I think that's for me, and not just with the Dynamo. I think all across the sport, this league, MLS, Liga MX as well. The focus has got to go back to soccer. That's the right. Prime product. That's the prime. What sells the tickets. It's the sport that people are in love with. It's the action on the field, and I think that's what you got to celebrate. That's what you got to link them to. That's what links you to the World Cup. The same type of emotion, the same type of passion, the same type of experience. Yeah, that's how you connect and get people attached. Again, we talked about a lot of these people that were at these watch parties. They live in Houston. They're based in Houston. They've called Houston home for many years. Whether they come here from other countries, they put the roots down here, or whether they're here for several generations. And you got to get them behind the Dynamo, just like they are behind the other sports teams.
It is an opportunity, and this is the first match of two that will be public relative to the preseason before the MLS and the Houston Dynamo go back to action on July 15th. It'll be América de Cali also coming. So Honduras, Colombia. I think this is a good way, Enrique Vasquez, to measure if there is a World Cup bump, if there is that continued interest, that continued passion. And as Victor said it, and I hate when we all start agreeing, the link here isn't the World Cup competition per se, but the sport itself, the passion the sport gives us. That is something that can be potentially contagious. Is this an opportunity?
Well, it's an opportunity, but you also have to understand that it's two different markets within the Hispanic community, right? Mexican and Honduras is just two different things, and that's not a bad thing. You just have to do it, find the right way to reach out and to invite everybody in, to bring everybody in. Again, it's not the Hispanic, Spanish speaking, but it's two different markets, two different fan bases. So you just have to find a way to do it and find that the nuances and how to do it, and you can't just assume we're going to play mariachi music, and that's going to bring in the Honduras fans. I mean, that's just the case. I mean, you know him, Luisa Rendon, who I work with on the Oklahoma Sooners broadcast. He always talks about, why is everything Mexican centered?
Mexican-centric, yeah.
Centric. He's from Venezuela, so it's two different things, so you just have to find a way to do it. So you need people behind the scenes that understand that, and you can't just assume that because it's Honduras, all the Hispanics are going to come, all the Mexicans are going to come. It's just not the case, and that's not a bad thing. That's just how it is.
I think that evolution in the sport in Houston, Enrique, has taken place a little bit. You're right, and I don't know if in other sports, and certainly I know for sure that in the past, in other professional franchise in the city, they didn't have a clue. They thought someone speaking Spanish, they were all the same, and play mariachi music, and everybody's happy, and give them a taco. Literally, throw a tortilla at them. Houston Rockets, literally, and that appeases them or brings them in.
I mean, look at it from this perspective for somebody that's new or to understand it better. If you have the Texas Bowl, Texas A&M is going to come in. Are you going to assume that all Texas Longhorns fans are going to come to the building because they love football? No, that's exactly what it is. I would congratulations to me on a good example. Aggie fans are not the same as Longhorn fans, and that's what you're assuming, that because it's football and because it's going to be here at the stadium, they're all going to come just because it is. No, you have to specifically cater your event to the right fan base. Otherwise, you're not going to get the results that you want. It's not going to be the same. You can't assume that because all the Mexicans showed up at the stadium that's going to happen because you have a Central American team coming into the building.
That's a reality, Victor. I do believe, though, in this case, and I can cite a few things, that there is a little more sophistication in organizing soccer matches. But again, a good opportunity for the Houston Dynamo, a good opportunity for all of us really to gauge if we get an attendance of 10, 15, 20,000 people, man, that would be surprising to me, but maybe possible.
Yeah, and look, and these are, I struggle with some of this because I think this should be the kind of effort that should be there every year. Every year they should have a friendly like this against Olimpia or América de Cali. It shouldn't just come during a World Cup year. And I would say that even the watch parties, I mean, again, I always kind of wish it was a little higher again, because again, this was a unique situation, but there's also, you can't bite off more than you can chew. So maybe this is as much as they could have done. I hope it's a start of something long term. Where we go to, how do you get people in the building? I was just kind of like browsing through the tickets. $25 to get in, right? I don't know if we'll find out if that's the right. And I know they have a package they've been advertising, right? I think it's like 4 tickets for like $54 or something like that. So do they have to advertise that a little more? Do they have, whatever, But I think you have to make it accessible for people to, want to be convinced to come in the building. You can have premium options if you want, but I think it's whatever it takes to get them inside. That's what you got to do. Again, you make the sport a priority, because I think more than anything, that's the common denominator here, that you can connect with somebody from any of these teams before anything else, and then we'll see how this does. But again, I hope it's not just a one-year soccer celebration. I hope it really continues here for years. We used to have the Dynamo Charities Cup annually.
Yes, sir.
That's gone away, and that used to be the prime opportunity for something like this. Again, do they start advertising Jack McGlynn as the, his road to the next World Cup? Do we put a spotlight a little more on Hector Herrera and what he's done? I just talked to, this is a prime example to put it on Boniek Garcia. I don't think he ever got a farewell from when he retired. So, I mean, there's different things you can do to connect with people, get them in the building and build on it. And we'll see if it starts here.
Forgive me, Victor, for stepping there over you. Enrique, part of it is getting the word out. As you mentioned, I think many of us that have followed pretty much almost every World Cup match to the best of our ability, the campaigning, the getting out in front of the the local market to say, look, we have that passion. Give us the opportunity. And I was going to go to Enrique, but Victor, we don't know of any, hey, this one's on us kind of promotion with the Dynamo Dash yet, do we? If you're new to the sport, if you love the World Cup, I haven't seen that. Maybe it exists.
They should let us know, because we probably should be their target audience and have this off the top of our heads. So
Yeah.
That's probably your answer. I mean, I know MLS was trying to do something like a first tickets on us type of deal. But again, I mean, this is international friendly. This is separate. I'm sure they can do several. They probably have a little bit more leeway for things like this. This isn't behind the Apple paywall, as far as I understand. I mean, is this something they're gonna stream and make available for people that don't go to the stadium? Again, we'll see. Kroger is a prime sponsor. I see. I haven't been to a Kroger in a little while. But could they do something with them, just like the Astros and Texans? I believe the Texans do something with HEB also, right?
Commercial wise, you mean?
Can we have cutouts of the players at the grocery stores? Can we? I mean, what are we doing here, right? To try to get, do we give out tickets to, you get so many Kroger points, you spend over $100 on groceries. Here's your voucher for Dynamo tickets. I mean, I think, maybe these are just ideas, right? I don't know what their financial situation is, how much they're willing to hand out, right? For as far as getting people in the building, but I think there's plenty of opportunities here to grow the game. And again, specifically with U.S. soccer, I think that's kind of been for me the problem, where it's been a little bit more about making money first, and the sport second. I think the sport's got to come first. You have to get the building filled, build the excitement, get people behind the local product, and hopefully we see it here after this World Cup.
Enrique, once the dust settles of the emotion of the U.S. men's national team, of the Mexican national team, once we have a winner, which is not too many days away, once the World Cup is gone, and we get back, as you mentioned at the top of this broadcast, back to our routine, out of sight, out of mind. What is your short-term prediction? Is there going to be a bump for clubs like the Dynamo, the Dash, the MLS in particular in this country? I believe there will be. I really do. Now it's how do you continue the passion going, sustain it, and it's not always necessarily, Victor, throwing money at it. It's engaging, maybe Enrique Vasquez, right? You have said this, Victor has said this, for teams like the Houston Dynamo, and we live this, gentlemen, and for full transparency, I'm proud to be the English language voice of the team, but a team like the Houston Dynamo in Houston, Enrique, should have top-rated Spanish language broadcast, marketing in Spanish to the different communities to attract them to the sport, where we are naturally already interested in it. That's something that I believe should be a no-brainer. How do we get there?
Well, I mean, certainly they've tried many things. I don't know that they've had the success that they wanted, in all these efforts, whether it was Spanish TV, Spanish radio, but, they just had to, take a couple of steps forward and not just be a check-the-box type of situation for how they reach out to the Hispanic market, and because clearly that's where they're still missing out quite a bit. I mean, I don't know the percentages on, who are the fans that come out to watch Dynamo games or not. Obviously, there's plenty of people that follow soccer already that need to be welcomed into that building, that have made their way to the building over these last, 5-6 matches that we had a watch party there, close to 100,000 people, right, over 5 matches. When has the Dynamo had a run of that many people showing up for any of their 5 matches at home? It has to be in a while, right? Maybe when they were winning championships back in the Robertson Stadium days, where you saw full packed houses week in and week out to watch the Dynamo. So then it ultimately comes down to, like Victor says, you have to build a winner. You have to be able to win. I think regardless of where you're from, you're more inclined to follow and sacrifice and put up the money to go watch a winner. So one thing's going to lead to another, but the franchise does have to make a concerted effort to reach out to the Hispanic fan base to get out there, because they've shown you they're willing to
Spend the money.
suffer through the
Yeah.
heat, spend the money, and but the team has to be more competitive on a continuous basis, and hopefully that'll be it. Take care of the most important thing on the field, and maybe they will come out.
Victor, I guess the final point on this, because we've gone really long tonight, gentlemen. Victor, the final point on this, and we'll continue talking about it, has this, meaning the World Cup watch parties, the attention and intensity of 7 World Cup matches in Houston, has this maybe sparked something? I'm using that word in the organization, Dynamo Dash, and maybe other organizations, the Rockets, the Texans, the Astros, that soccer and our diversity as a community can be tapped into. We've talked about it already, that I believe so. And I believe those marketing heads, either for brands and or for the teams, are saying, you know what? We can all make money off of this. We can all have success on this. Let's have a plan. Is this that pivotal moment, Victor, that can propel soccer to the next level?
I sure hope so, and I sure hope so. It sparked something, because if it hasn't sparked anything after this World Cup, then there may be no hope. I mean, it's that blunt.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have whether your eyes were open or whether it was just the proof is in the pudding, whatever. I think it's more than evident now. If it hadn't been before, and I think. We've been saying how this is a soccer market. Again, maybe they might just think it's just for some of these games, but there's enough here in Houston, Texas to build on, and it's up to them. And it's not just in this market. Look, Austin's been parading. They had Mexican fans also at their watch parties. I have lesser faith that they're going to catapult off that, capitalize on that. I don't foresee Austin going after a Mexican player. I don't foresee them latching on to that more than doing tweets in Spanish or that kind of marketing. And that's where I think you'll lose this bump, right? This moment. The Texans have a Spanish account where they try to promote the team internationally also. The Astros, I know MLB has tried it. Maybe it's not as effective. The Dynamo haven't ever tried to do a Spanish account, even though some other MLS teams have. I don't know if that's because they don't want to just open one and then have it just kind of, fade into obscurity eventually, as it has with some teams. I think Sporting Kansas City is one of those.
Yeah.
But I think, again, you have to dedicate resources to the Hispanic market, because I think it is its own important piece of this market. It just is. And like Enrique said, it's not as simple as just typing in something into Google Translate and putting it in a tweet. And no, you have to know how to communicate with each sector. You have to know how fans think, how everybody thinks. How they feel about soccer. That's why I go back to it. It's crazy to me that they don't have a Hispanic executive in this market. But that's their choice. Like Enrique said, they need to get behind their Hispanic broadcasters also. Daniel Mejia does a bunch of stuff for them, basically pro bono on his own media accounts. They could help him with just tee him off with some social media posts. Hey, look, or we'll just collaborate on this. Just hit the collaborate button on Instagram, and that's it. I mean, they do this with influencers. Who better to be influence the soccer community than the people you already have in house? And then obviously going into, I mean, this is all stuff we've talked about for years. Going into the soccer community, making those inroads, winning people over. There's no better time than now. And again, it's their choice if they want to do it or not.
And the thing is, Alex, I mean, you and I, we've been at it here in Houston for quite a while, knocking on the door of people, whether it's marketing agencies, the advertising agencies, the teams themselves, to reach out and say, hey, look, in Spanish, this could work if you get behind it. Luckily, the Texans have gotten behind it. The Astros have gotten behind it. Back in 2006, we were able to produce some Spanish content for them on TV, which was a success. Certain circumstances around the franchise, turned them to maybe stop some of the work that we had done back in the day. But now they picked up where we left off, in the early 2000s. So it's been a slow, steady climb to where we are now. But it certainly is a shame that if it is the case that it took this to open the eyes of the Dynamo, that the Spanish was a way that was a market that was very important to them.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's why did they not already know?
Look,
that's the big question to me. Okay, maybe they wake up to this now, but why, as the soccer team in town, why did they not already know that Spanish was almost a priority for them to be out there already? And they've been here since 2005.
I don't pretend to have any inside information about the last 22 years. And in those years, Enrique, you and I have been around, Victor's been around. We've talked to different executives at different times and different moments. There's been a lot of things that have been tried. Going after the youth market. Remember the Dynamo Dash Youth Club? It was ubiquitous. It was a bust. It's been admitted that that's a different direction that never worked. So they wanted to go after the suburban kids and families. Valid, very valid. For a while there was a Central American team. I'm just going to say it. The Dynamo identified with Central America. So far, none of these things have yielded any consistency. But I'm going to tell you what I think is the reason.
Can I add to that?
Please.
I don't think the right effort, and I think has been made in on all these areas. I think just, again, like Enrique said, you can't just do something and check the box and say, we tried it. And then just because you did it the wrong way, think it didn't work.
Fair.
And I say this because I think the same way I criticize them for not putting as much of a marketing arm behind Hector Herrera, I go back and say the same mistake was done with the Central American players. There was no push behind to market them, to make those inroads with all these nationalities, with all these communities in Houston.
But I will add then I believe at the end of the day, guys, and you know where I'm going with this, it hasn't sold because it doesn't sell and it doesn't make money. It's not on the radar. What's selling is what the executives are able to connect with each other, the contacts and the people they know, to say, hey, throw me some money from X brand, throw me some money from Y brand. That's the deal. That's where our energy is going to go. So if X brand says, I want the Hungarian national team to be here, that's what's going to sell, whether or not it makes any sense or not. So my gut tells me that this World Cup will lift the lid off, hey, this can make people money. And once that's out there, I think that'll wake up, not that they were completely asleep, the people not only current but in the past that make these decisions. It just wasn't a focus because it wasn't making money. And you know this, Enrique, you know this, Victor. I wish that we could say on the Spanish language side that commentators are getting paid equal to English. They're not. We haven't. And it's because it hasn't been sold.
Yeah.
Once you sell it, once you get the financial behind it, and maybe even someone like Daniel Mejia deserves to get a raise, deserves to get more resources, as you've pointed out, Victor. But when it's a trade of services, when it's not making anybody money, why would you pay attention to that? I'm not defending that position, but I'm trying to explain it if it makes sense. At least that's my take on it. So I know at the end of the day, it comes back to the almighty dollar. We hate to talk about that, but maybe that's one way. Anyway, lots of opportunities, I think, for all of us that love the sport now. As we wrap up, Victor, the last word as we get ready to go, an hour and 20 minutes into this podcast.
Yeah, just excited for tomorrow. Spain, Belgium, that might be, we'll see if it is the better matchup out of the quarterfinals. I'm excited to see what these two teams can give us tomorrow. Sadly, it's not the U.S. in this matchup, but hopefully it's at least a spectacle. It
would have been amazing. Victor, thanks to you and all your efforts. Happy birthday, by the way, again, young man. Gosh, to To be 47 again, that would be amazing. Good job, Victor.
Yeah,
And
well, it's not.
yeah, I'm not very good at
Yeah,
math. Yeah.
I wish I didn't have all these white hairs already.
What's he complaining about hair?
That's right. At least you still have some.
Yeah,
Enrique
yeah.
Vasquez,
Yeah.
a last word, sir, as we wrap up this edition of Live at Night Soccer Talk.
Well, we're getting weaned off soccer, right? Now down to one match a day. This weekend, a couple matches here on Saturday. But yeah, it's winding down, unfortunately. As much as we look forward to it coming, now it's winding down. But some good soccer up ahead. Enjoy it. Enjoy what we have. With some good matches here in the next few days.
Enjoy while we have it. Obviously, 3 more matches of the quarterfinals, and then believe it or not, it's winding down. I'm missing it already. I'm missing you guys already. So we're gonna have to get a sponsor too. By the way, we're open to sponsors, so we can maybe keep this magic going. Before we go, friends, thanks to all of you that follow us. Thanks to all of you that take the time to be with us, to be part of our family. We really appreciate all of you. And yes, we love the sport. We love sports in general. We love that other football too, by the way, from the, what are their names? The Houston Texans. We'll be talking about that here in just, when is training camp starting, Enrique Vasquez?
Last weekend of July. It hasn't been yeah, it's not official yet, but yeah, last weekend in July, basically. And then a couple of weeks, first preseason game. We're on our way.
He's excited. I can see the little twinkle in Enrique Vasquez's eyes. So on behalf of our production staff, on behalf of Victor, on behalf of Enrique, I'm Alex Parra. Thanks, friends, to all of you that take the time to join us, to follow us, to be part of our lives, for part of our days. We appreciate every single one of you. Please have a great day, and we'll see you soon, hopefully tomorrow. It really depends on the details, but we'll be here soon tomorrow talking a little bit more about soccer. Have a great evening, and muy buenas noches. Good night.